everybody, it's Chef Mary Nolan here, and I'm going to show you an easy weeknight dinner that I make all the time. My family loves it. It's a red curried salmon. It's much easier than it sounds because I buy red curry paste, which I think you can find just about anywhere. My kids absolutely love it, and I whip this up on a weeknight. My youngest is not a fan of curry, so I normally cut off a piece of salmon for her that I leave plain. So I have my beautiful side of salmon here. You can find this at just about any grocery store. If you couldn't find a whole side, you could also buy individual pieces, but it's usually a little bit less if you buy a large piece like this. So I'm gonna cut off a piece for my youngest, and I'm cutting this on the foam tray. You don't wanna cut it on your Silpat or your sheet tray, so you'll cut right through it. But I'm just gonna cut a piece off that I'm just gonna do with salt and pepper for her. And this is skin on salmon. And so I'm gonna cook it with the skin on. Sometimes when you buy salmon, it doesn't have the skin on, and that's fine too. It's really just gonna peel right off once it's done. So this size will be good for my family of 5, and we might even have some leftovers. Okay, so the first thing that you need is that red curry paste. Buy whatever brand you can find. And I usually eyeball it, but I will measure it. And I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of that into my bowl that I'm gonna mix with just a few other things. But this comes together really quickly and has a lot of flavor. And I usually serve it with some steamed rice and a vegetable, and everyone is happy. Okay, so I have my 2 tablespoons of red curry paste. And then to that, I'm going to add some ground coriander. Coriander is the seed of cilantro, so it has a nice, bright flavor. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of coriander, ground coriander. If you have the seeds, you can grind it up yourself, but it's easier to buy it ground, especially if you're trying to save some time on a weeknight. Okay, I want just a little pinch of sugar, a tiny bit. I like just the way a little bit adds, so I'm gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of sugar. And then I'm gonna add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. This is Diamond Crystal kosher salt. If you're not sure what kind of salt you have, I would do a 1/4 teaspoon. You can always add a little bit more. And then some freshly ground black pepper, about a 1/4 teaspoon of that. Okay. And then I'm gonna add some lime juice and give it a stir. So I have freshly squeezed lime juice here. I'm gonna measure out a tablespoon of that. Give it a stir so that you have kind of a nice loose paste that's gonna be easy to spread on the salmon. So a word on salmon. If you can find wild salmon, that's great. That tends to be a little bit leaner. This is not. This is an antibiotic-free farmed salmon that I really like. So it's a little fattier than wild salmon. So if you're using a wild salmon, I recommend adding a little drizzle of olive oil too. It's not gonna have as much natural fat in the salmon. Okay, so I'm just gonna spread the curry paste on the larger piece and leave that other piece for picky pants that I'm just gonna put salt and pepper on. And I have my oven preheating to 400 degrees right now. So you saw how easy that was, mixing that stuff together. Salt and pepper, the toddler piece. And then I'm just gonna put this whole thing in the oven. And I'm gonna set my timer for 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna check it. So I'm gonna check my salmon. It looks just about done. So I would normally feel the salmon for doneness, but I know not everyone is comfortable doing that, and you don't necessarily know what you're feeling for, or you don't want to burn your finger. I get it. So right now the salmon's at just over 100 in the thickest part. That's where you want to measure it. So it needs a few more minutes. So I'm going to rotate it, put it back in, because I'm looking for it to be between 120 and 125, depending on how you like your salmon done. I'm okay with it being a little underdone in the middle. So I'm going to give it about 5 more minutes. So my salmon has been in for about 15 minutes. I'm going to take another temperature, but it is going to continue to cook as it rests. It's called carryover cooking. So I think I'll be good. And some of these thinner parts, see 123, yeah, it's good. It's going to be perfect for all different kinds of doneness because you have some that's more well done on the belly and the thicker part is going to be a little less done. So I'm just going to let that rest a little bit before I serve it, and I'm going to serve it with white rice, and then I'm going to chop up just a little bit of cilantro as a garnish. All right, so the salmon is done. As I mentioned, I normally serve it with rice and steamed vegetables or something like that, and I just want you to see, since it was cooked with the skin on, how easily it will come off of the skin when you go to serve it. So you could just put this on a platter on the table. You could individually plate it. You could really do whatever is easiest for you, but I just love how easy, flavorful. It has nice bright flavors, and you saw how fast it was for a weeknight meal, and my kids really do request it. I have a little bit of cilantro, which is going to reiterate that coriander flavor that I put in with the rub, but if you don't have any, or if you have kids that are going to say, hey, why did you put green stuff on my salmon? Don't worry about it, but I like to add just a little bit. There you go. An easy, healthy weeknight meal.